right, so nothing better than following up a presentation by Nick, who works at Facebook, with a presentation about social media and talking about Facebook. The good thing is that all I'm really going to do is reinforce a lot of things that Nick said, just more from a marketing perspective, so that's fantastic. And great presentation, Nick. That was a lot of great data there. But yeah, I'm the Director of Marketing at Her Interactive. If you're not familiar with Her Interactive, we are the developer and publisher of Nancy Drew games. We started the company back in 1997. We launched our first game in 1998. We've now launched well over 35 different PC Mac titles, as well as apps on iOS, Android, Kindle, etc. We've won over 30 Parents' Choice Awards, and we have also now sold over 9 million copies. Now, part of the reason, other than just a quick little ad about Her Interactive, but part of the reason I share this, we're a small company, and I think you can relate to us quite a bit because we're only a company of about 20 people. I actually was down at a brand conference about a month ago, and I was chatting with somebody at a game company, and you'll quickly figure out who it was, but we were just talking shop and talking about user acquisition and CPI rates and the rest of it, and I was like, well, what kind of budget did you have? Oh, we had a $40 million budget. Oh, and then I hired Kate Upton to be our spokesperson for our game. Well, that's not very relatable to me. We have very tight budgets, which sometimes, I don't think always stunts our creativity. I think we can always, use a lot of those growth hacker type strategies, but we still have to maintain those budgets. But again, we have very small budgets, which a lot of indie developers will as well, obviously. So I gave this presentation last year. I want to kind of do a little bit of a recap how I see the social landscape before diving into actual core tactics, if you will. So the social landscape today, 2 billion plus people on social media, 3 out of 4 using social media at least once a month. Marketing, everybody knows, I don't have to convince anybody here that they need to put part of their budget towards not only growing your social media channels, but actually advertising on them. Facebook being one of the better ones to do that. And then social media users, we're adding about 550 in the US every single day still. But what's happening? Fragmentation. We have gone from these very large, open, public, broad, capture everything, Facebook, Twitter to be perfect examples of that. But now what we're seeing in the social media space is fragmentation. We are going to niche, anonymous, ephemeral, private. So this scares the hell out of marketers, or if it doesn't, it should, because how do you get in front of people that are having private conversations? Facebook growth. It slowed, sorry Nick, but it is slowing. Having said that, there's no better platform than Facebook, again, to advertise and to be a part of that community. And anybody who says that the death of Facebook is imminent is wrong. It's slowed, but it's still the #1 social network out there. But it has changed, or has shown little change since 2013. While going back to those niche social networks like Snapchat, for example, they've seen still tremendous growth, 57% in fact last year. Multi-platform use on the rise. No big surprise here, everything's going mobile. 52% of online adults use 2 or more social media sites on their mobile phone. And then again, niche networks. We're becoming increasingly popular as people congregate more around niche ideas or niche issues or popular, whatever it might be, TV shows or emojis or cats or whatever you have that you have an interest in. Those niche networks are starting to grow more and more. Perfect example of that for us, that fragmentation is Twitch. I mean, this is really a social network that's all about games. If you have an interest in games, especially more hardcore games, this is the place to go, to see the game, to watch someone play the game, to interact with that player, to interact with other players. This is a perfect example for us for fragmentation in the social media space. But a good one at that, and certainly you want to be a part of that, because if this fits your demo, which again, you got to be thinking about who wants to play your game. Twitch is 95% male, again, very much hardcore. If that's the kind of game that you've developed, this would kind of make sense for you to be a part of. Visual. More and more, everything is about visual. Video, images, it's got to be visual. The human brain processes visuals 60,000 times faster than actual text. And text, especially amongst millennials, tends to be considered boring. They don't want to read, just show me what you're doing, or show me something cool, or show me that video. They don't want to have to read it. And just showing some quick examples there of those types of visuals that really are going to capture the attention. And that's what you want to do, because you want them to share it, you want them to talk about it, like it. You just don't want them to read it and not do anything. Again, I would really want to emphasize that video is the content of choice. The video consumption is on the rise. Americans aged 18 to 64 have more than doubled their digital viewing habits, consuming more video than ever before. There's a growth in mobile users. Much of the growth in digital video viewing can be attributed to the growth of mobile. No surprise there. And then also the new markets with better Wi-Fi, better data plans. People have those types of devices and the plans associated with to actually view content, which prior to, they really didn't have that ability to do that. Showing that video really is the king of content. Facebook actually surpassed YouTube for the amount of video views on desktop, according to ComScore last year. Probably not a lot of surprise to a lot of you, but I'm sure for some of you it might be. But there's a lot of apps out there, such as Meerkat, Periscope, etc. And those are great for real-time, kind of raw, event-based, experience type video that you can do on the spot and actually stream that service to anybody. So very much a challenge to kind of the more established video content players out there. And I think we're going to see more of those types of apps being made available to the fans and audience out there. So, having said all that, dive into some strategic or tactical things when it comes to social media. So, first and foremost, whenever say, Jared, when they ask me how do you approach social, always first things first, always understand your audience. If you haven't launched your game, it's the first game that you're launching, then you're going to have to be making some assumptions most likely. But look at competitors, or look at other people who've developed a similar app or similar game and learn from them the type of demographic, type of audience that you might have. And keep it simple, something I always stress. Don't try to be everything to all people. This seems like common sense, but don't feel like you need to be on every social media network out there. Pick 2, 3, 4, and manage it very well, versus feeling like you need to be on 20 and they're all desolate. Basically, you're not able to manage it and to keep it live and keep it engaging and to have real interactions with your fan base and to grow that fan base. If you're not doing that, then you're just wasting your time. So much better to focus on those 2 or 3 versus 20. It's not about you. I won't have you look at this too long, but I always have to stress this as well, that it's really about your fans. You know, you've probably heard the saying that your brand is not about you, it's about your customers. Same thing with your social media. Find out what interests them. What do they want to talk about? Yes, it's going to be in regards to your game, but what's going to interest them? What's going to engage them? What's going to get them excited? That's what you need to figure out. Not just constantly hammer them with things that you think they want to know. Let them tell you, and then you respond accordingly. And please do not spam. I see this mistake all the time too. We need to grow, Jared, we need to grow our audience. We need to get more people, converting more people from social actually buying our game or installing our game. I know that's really tempting, but if you continually hit them over and over again with ads or encouraging them to buy and to click and install, you will lose your audience. They will just zone you out. Again, that might seem like common sense, but it happens all the time, especially people who tend to start getting a little bit desperate about not seeing the kind of installs or downloads that they would like to see, but try not to do it. That's not to say you never do it, of course you do, especially when you have sales, but make it fun, make it different. Maybe have a competition, give something away.
put a different perspective on it. It's not that we're not going to update our audience about different features, and when we release a new pack with different levels or what have you. We always want to update your audience on that, but the constant advertising, don't do it. Align your strategies with your goals and metrics. When you're approaching social media, or if you're on social media, if you're not understanding what you're judging yourself on or what metrics you're tracking, you're basically wasting your time. And you're going to have different metrics depending upon what your goals are. But if you just want to generate traffic, then you're going to be looking at unique visitors. If you just want to create a following, certainly subscribers is important. Interaction, engagement, and revenue, well, that kind of speaks for itself. But engagement is always core. Certainly, yes, you want to have a certain set of subscribers or followers. That's always important. But really, the key metric is always engagement. Social media calendar. This is important on two different levels. One, for your content creation. As I just earlier described, visuals are highly important. Especially video, and if you're doing video takes time. Video can be expensive, and certainly it's not something you can do on the fly. So you need to plan it out. But you also need to plan out what you want to be talking about each and every day. You should be posting at least 2 or 3 times a day. If you're not keeping up that level of engagement that you should really be focused on. Now, this is not to say they don't have real-time marketing, and if you see an opportunity to exploit such as the examples that Nick talked about with growth hacking, you want to do that, absolutely. But at the same time, you should have a core set of content that you want to share each and every day, especially if you know that your launch is out 3 to 6 months. You want to start teasing that 6 months out. Start showing screenshots, start talking about characters, start talking about story, start leaking out different aspects of the game to really build that enthusiasm and that anticipation for the game. Your goal should always be, how can I inspire, entertain, and delight my audience and ideal customers? That should be top of mind every single time. If you keep that in mind with all the content, all the copy that you're developing and sharing on social, you'll be good to go. And remember, it's about being authentic. Again, this might seem like common sense, but if you take a look at other brands that are managing social, I mean, it literally does sound as if they're doing a presentation at a Fortune 500 company or doing an earnings conference call sometimes. And especially for a game company, people want to associate with a brand that's fun, that they want to be a part of, that they want to hear about and talk about. So keep that authentic voice. Make it sound human. Care about your community. If someone says, oh, I had a really crappy day today, but I went home and I played Call of Duty and now I feel better, say, that's fantastic. Respond to that. You should be responding to everything. At Her Interactive, we try and respond to everything within 24 hours as much as possible. You should be trying to do the same thing. Listen and learn from your audience. This goes back to testing. See what they're talking about, see what they want to talk about, see where their interest levels are. And it's also a great opportunity, obviously, for customer support. If you're noticing themes in terms of issues with your game or an opportunity, you should be listening to that and providing that information back to your development teams. So zero in on those fans' needs and interests. You don't have to be perfect. Mistakes are going to happen, and that's okay. That's part of being human. But own up to it. Don't try and ignore it. Don't delete. Well, if you do delete it, be sure to still apologize for it. Have a personality. Know your audience. Be consistent. That's branding as well as the things that you're talking about. And take risks. Nothing wrong with that. And that's part of the whole growth hacking aspect as well. You want to be taking those risks. My only caution there is don't try and take advantage of situations where, I think there was an example of Dunkin' Donuts when after the Boston Marathon bombing, they had a tweet saying, oh, we sympathize with all the people from the Boston Marathon and we're offering half-price mochas today with a donut. Don't do that. I mean, certainly if you want to sympathize, that's great, but leave it at that. Don't try and take advantage of tragedies or of major news stories that could backfire on you. And what's that?
Unless you're Oakley.
Yeah, unless you're Oakley. Well, that's a positive thing, and you're just providing something free. But that's a different example. Need to connect. People buy things, or sorry, they don't necessarily buy things, they join things. They want to be part of that community. They want to be a part of those other fans that share an allegiance or an affinity towards your brand. Remember that at all times. Social advocates, activate them as much as possible. These are the people that are going to help you get your game out, get people talking about it, and get people wanting to play it. But I go back to the caution about dark social. 70% of accounts now are sharing on social, but it's estimated that it's dark. Scary for a marketer. I don't think there's any it's hard to say silver bullet there, or how brands have really kind of tapped into dark social, but it's something to be aware of. But at the same time, you want to provide these folks with the ability to talk about your brand as much as possible, even if you're not seeing it. Always be growing your advocates. This is an exact example from Her Interactive, and we have an extremely passionate fan base, and we're constantly trying to give them different ideas, different content, different games, free assets in order to continually talk about us. And in return, they're constantly giving us feedback and sharing how much they love the company. This is someone who just recently received a free Cocoa Kringle, which is a candy bar from the game. She wanted to let us know and thank us for that. Here's an example of another advocate that we rewarded with free games and free journals. Now, this stuff to us might not seem like a big deal, who cares? But to these fans who love the brand, love the games, and want to be a part of that, they care about it a lot. And guess what? They're going to share about it. They're going to talk about it with their friends and family, and they're going to try and get other people to get into our games as much as they are. Video again, empower your video advocates, your video influencers. We have done this consistently for the last couple of years, and the feedback that we've gotten and the amount of video content available on YouTube now from our fans has been terrific. Let them use your music from your games. Let them use your screenshots and images from your games or characters, what have you. Let them take it and develop parodies or different trailers or reviews or playthroughs. Let them do that. It'll come back to you tenfold, I promise, because people are going to see this, they're going to be delighted by this, and then they're going to want to do it as well. But it really does grow your awareness of your brand and of your game. Know your data. Nick talked about this already, but if you don't understand what you're tracking, again, talked about a little bit earlier, you need to understand what your favorability looks like on social. You need to understand where your traffic's coming from, who's talking about you, what they're talking about, where the traffic is coming from back to your site, or install rates. You know, when you're looking at different advertising networks and saying who's installing, who's not installing, where should you be spending your money, you got to know your data. And know your influencers. This is from a tool that I use called Socialytics, but I can tell at any given point of time who's sharing, what they're sharing, how big of a influence they're having, meaning if they're on Facebook, well, they just shared with their entire network of friends, and they have 119 friends. Great. I just know exactly how much that share was worth, because if those referrals went back to our site and made a purchase, I know exactly what the benefit or the ROI was for me. So you need to know who these people are, and these influencers are the types of influencers that you need to reward as well. So going back to the ROI, again, I can know exactly how many referrals, what the traffic was, who's sharing, what they're sharing, what's most profitable. You know, was it Twitter, was it Facebook, was it email, was it Pinterest, where I'm getting the highest number of referrals from, and then again, what I'm making per referral back to our site. Hugely important for a marketer, and certainly important when you're looking at the ROI and reporting back in terms of your marketing spend. Learn from your competitors' partners. Always do this. I'm constantly looking at how other game companies are sharing content, sharing about their games, launching their games. Hugely important. Not to say that the bigger companies or the bigger guys are always going to be doing it right, but you can still learn from it, absolutely. We have a very small team at Her Interactive, as I said. So if Steam has 5 people running social, they might be running some different programs than perhaps we are. It might be doing some unique things that maybe we want to take advantage of because our games are on Steam as well. And maybe we want to do some social co-marketing or co-promoting. Favorite tools. If you're not familiar with these, happy to talk about it, but if you're not using tools to help you with your engagement and maintain that engagement, it's very helpful. Be it Hootsuite, Rival IQ, which is a local company, which can really help you manage your brand management online. Simply Measured, another local company, Google Analytics. These are all the types of tools that you should be aware of and should be using. Lastly, because I think I'm running close out of time and I want to leave a little bit of time for questions, stay focused. See this happen all the time. Again, going back to we need to be here, we need to have a presence on this social network, this social network. Try not to fall into that trap. I remember 6 months ago, maybe everyone was talking about Elo. Everybody. Jerry, why aren't we in Elo? It's going to be the greatest next thing. Well, I don't know anybody who's on there now, and I certainly don't know any brand. So try not to be the dogs there in the conference room and see the squirrel and run over to it. Really stay focused on your strategy and maintain that strategy, and I think you'll be all right. So with that, I'll end there. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
And for any questions, I got some games I'd like to give away too.
We have actual swag as well. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does anybody have any questions? Here we go.
On Twitter, follower strategy. So how do you decide who to follow?
Well, do they like games? What are they talking about? I mean, usually just based on their. All your followers? Sometimes, yes. Yeah, those that have a large following themselves, absolutely. So yeah, it's a number of different data points I look at. What are their core interests? How big of a following do they have? Those are the 2 biggest things for me. And does it align with our brand strategy? Then I'll probably end up following them.
Anybody else?
Okay. Do you engage in forums, or is it tools?
No, we do. We have a very active message board or forums directly on our site, but we have noticed a shift over to more social-based conversations happening around our games, just because they're already there. So if they're on Facebook, they're just going to go to our Facebook page versus I got to exit from that. Now I got to go to my, the message boards on herinteractive.com. It's just easier to talk about the games directly on that social channel. So it's still very active, but I think more of it's going to social.
Okay. I guess just balancing behind the scenes photos and everything while you're making the game.
Yeah.
So oversharing versus undersharing that.
Yeah, it's always a delicate balance, right? And I think you really have to, again, strategize and think out when you're releasing that content. And certainly you don't want any spoilers or giving too much away. But at the same time, as a marketer, your job is to get people excited about this title. So it's always a delicate balance, but certainly I don't think you're really oversharing unless you're doing 3 screenshots a day. Now you don't want to do that, but maybe once a week. You want to share a new screenshot as you lead up to the launch of your game. That would be about appropriate. Does that answer your question? Okay, great.
Great, and I think we'll wrap it up there.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Jared.